On June 16th, 2025, The Guardian posted a YouTube video featuring fitness influencer Ryan Johnson, and what he revealed in his fridge might surprise you.
So right here in the middle drawer is where we have all the special supplements.
Wow.
Got a wide variety of them.
What you're looking at here are peptides, short chains of amino acids that send signals to cells in the body. These peptides are backed by claims that sound almost too good to be true. They can melt your fat, give you a blemish-free face, and even help you get it up in the bedroom.
That makes your skin tanner, but also increases sexual libido. That's why there's that PT-141 peptide.
Ryan is just one of thousands of influencers now promoting these often unregulated drugs to people in their late teens and early 20s. But just how realistic are these health benefits? Can they really come with little to no risk? And what does this say about the growing body image issue in the modern world? Contrary to the peptide craze we usually hear about now, the first major therapeutic peptide began with one of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history, insulin. When researchers Frederick Banting and Charles Best isolated insulin in 1921, they transformed diabetes from a near-certain death sentence into a manageable disease. Insulin became the first peptide drug used in medicine in 1922 and was commercialized shortly afterward. Then, in the 1950s, scientists learned to synthesize peptide hormones such as oxytocin and vasopressin, opening the door to a much larger peptide drug industry. Advances in peptide synthesis and later recombinant DNA technology dramatically increased the number of peptides that could be manufactured safely. Over the following decades, peptide-based drugs were approved for conditions ranging from growth hormone deficiencies and infertility to osteoporosis, HIV-associated complications, and metabolic disorders. By the early 2000s, peptides became a legitimate pharmaceutical industry, though they were still largely confined to hospitals and endocrinology clinics. Then, in 2005, a new peptide would get approved that would change the way we injected ourselves with stuff we don't understand forever: GLP-1. GLP-1, or glucagon-like peptide 1, is a hormone your body naturally releases after you eat. Produced primarily in the intestines, it acts as a messenger that tells the pancreas to release insulin, slows the rate at which food leaves the stomach, and signals to the brain that you've had enough to eat. The problem is that natural GLP-1 doesn't stick around for long. An enzyme called DPP-4 breaks it down within minutes, making it difficult to use as a practical medication. For years, researchers searched for a version that could survive long enough in the body to have meaningful effects. And the breakthrough came from a surprisingly unlikely place: the venom of a lizard. In the early 1990s, researchers discovered a peptide called Exendin-4 in the saliva of a Gila monster. Exendin-4 behaves similarly to human GLP-1, but was much more resistant to breakdown. Scientists realized they had stumbled upon a molecule that accomplished what natural GLP-1 could not: remain active in the body long enough to become a useful drug. That discovery led to exenatide, marketed as Byetta, which became the first GLP-1 receptor agonist approved by the FDA in 2005 for people with type 2 diabetes. Unlike many diabetes medications before it, exenatide not only helped lower blood sugar, but also caused many patients to lose weight. At the time, that was viewed as a useful side effect, but in hindsight, it was the first glimpse of a much larger phenomenon. This diabetes treatment would eventually evolve into the common GLP-1 drugs we know of today, such as Ozempic, Wegovy, and Zepbound, medications so effective at suppressing appetite that they would ignite a global obsession with injectable peptides, transform the weight loss industry, and convince millions of otherwise healthy people that the future of self-improvement might come in the form of a weekly shot. Enter the peptide gold rush. For most of modern history, injectable drugs were associated with serious medical conditions. Diabetics injected insulin, and patients with hormone deficiencies injected hormone replacements. The average healthy person wasn't browsing online forums for compounds to inject into their stomach, unless you were a bodybuilder on bodybuilding.com forums. But that began to change as millions of people watched celebrities, influencers, and even some of their close friends rapidly lose weight using GLP-1 injections. As public trust in peptide drugs increased, many peptide-curious users began scouring the internet for other similar injectable remedies that could improve other areas of their lives, such as their recovery, muscle growth, tanning, aging, or focus. Thus, a parallel peptide economy was about to emerge, one with many less guarantees and potentially many more side effects.
Things like GP-157 definitely do accelerate the healing of an injury, and there's no question about that.
And I had a tendonitis in my elbow that I just could not fix.
Yeah.
I started using BPC-157. It was gone in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a clip from the Joe Rogan podcast where he's interviewing famous neuroscientist Andrew Huberman, who swears by the recovery benefits of one of the most famous unregulated peptides, BPC-157. The initials stand for body protection compound. Researchers derived it from a protein naturally found in human gastric juice and began studying its effects on wound healing and tissue repair in animal models. And now, with the endorsement of health influencers, or just influencers with no sort of credentials whatsoever, online communities are treating it as a near-mythical recovery drug capable of healing everything from tendon injuries to gut problems. Looking on a YouTube video analyzing the Rogan podcast, we can see tons of positive anecdotes in the comments. BPC-157 literally saved me from an 8-year journey looking for ways to heal my stomach issues. These issues caused depression, constant pain, etc. BPC healed it completely after a month or so. I got 1 bottle of BPC-157 and in 2 weeks I feel about 90 to 95% better. BPC-157 sorted my tendinitis in my forearm in about 5 days. Then came TB500, a synthetic fragment of thymosin beta-4, a naturally occurring protein involved in cell migration and tissue repair. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is just labeled with really complicated verbiage. That's just what scientists do. Combining this with BPC-157 creates what some users refer to as the ultimate recovery stack. Growth hormone-related peptides soon followed. CJC-1295 was developed to stimulate the release of growth hormone by mimicking growth hormone-releasing hormone. No, that isn't a typo or a miswrite. Ipamorelin worked through a different pathway, mimicking ghrelin and triggering additional growth hormone release. Together, CJC and ipamorelin became staples of anti-aging clinics and bodybuilding circles, marketed as a safer alternative to direct growth hormone injections. And now there's more peptides that target entirely different bodily desires but have managed to become just about as popular. Melanotan 2, for example, originated from research into a hormone and was designed to increase skin pigmentation. Users quickly discovered that it could produce a deep tan without extensive sun exposure, turning it into an underground cosmetic phenomenon. And the last of these really popular ones that I could find is something called ghk-cu. This is a copper-binding peptide first isolated from human plasma in the 1970s. Researchers investigated its potential role in collagen production and tissue regeneration, leading many enthusiasts to view it as this miracle anti-aging breakthrough. This growing peptide trend has even reached the early adopter capital of the world, Silicon Valley, where peptides have become the latest biohacking obsession among tech workers chasing everything from better cognition and injury recovery to longer lifespans. Now, it would be one thing if people were sticking a needle in their butt with a bunch of regulated drugs, an already questionable decision unless your life depends on it or you have a prescription. But the real reason why these peptides are potentially really dangerous is where they come from, how people get their hands on them, and the lack of adequate research. It is here where we must talk about the often long and expensive process of FDA approval. Before a drug reaches your medicine cabinet, it typically spends years moving through a gauntlet of trials. Researchers first investigate whether the compound appears safe in cells and animals. If those results look promising, the drug enters phase 1 trials, where small groups of human volunteers are monitored for side effects and safety concerns. If it survives that stage, it advances to phase 2 and phase 3 trials, where hundreds or even thousands of participants are studied to determine whether the drug actually works and whether its benefits outweigh its risks. The process is notoriously expensive. Estimates vary, but getting a new drug approved can cost hundreds of millions of dollars and in some cases, well over $1 billion. As a result, many of these compounds fail along the way. Some of them just straight up don't work, others produce side effects that only appear after a long amount of time and after being tested on enough people. But that's precisely the point. They need to do that much research to see not just if the drug produces the desired effect, but also discover everything else it does. And this is where the peptide gold rush becomes much more concerning. Many of the internet's favorite peptides never made it through this process. Some never entered large-scale human trials at all. Others showed promising results in rodents or small pilot studies, but lacked the evidence necessary for regulatory approval. But somewhere along the line, a growing amount of people started treating promising and proven as if they were the same thing. If you spend enough time in online fitness circles, you've probably seen this logic before. A study finds that a compound accelerated healing or recovery in rats. Then a podcast host mentions it, or their guest does. Then a YouTube creator makes a video about it, and a few users in the comments report incredible results. Before long, thousands of people are injecting it into their bodies under the assumption that somebody else has already done the hard work of proving it's safe, even though they haven't. As I was doing research for this video, I found one of the most dystopian influencers promoting these peptide products. Her name is Sarah.PepKit on TikTok. She has almost 3,000 followers, and she talks about her peptide usage and things you should know while plugging a link for a peptide tracking app in her bio. Sarah does not exist. Sarah is AI. I know it goes without saying for most of you, but please do not download or buy anything being promoted by an AI influencer. I mean, shit is just getting crazy out here. Is there anything more creepy or uncanny or dystopian about an AI influencer posting about unregulated peptides and trying to get people to take them or download this app that is in her bio? I mean, it's just crazy, man. But if they're totally unregulated, how are these products being sold in the first place? The answer is one of the most bizarre legal gray areas on the internet. Visit enough peptide vendors and you'll eventually encounter the same disclaimer repeated over and over again, for research purposes only. The implication is that these products are supposedly intended for scientific research rather than personal use. But many of the same websites simultaneously advertise all those benefits we talked about, like recovery, anti-aging, muscle growth, fat loss, or skin health. And that's where things become especially risky. When you receive an FDA-approved medication, there are strict manufacturing requirements. The company creating the medication must govern the purity, make sure to test for contamination, and keep adequate storage conditions, dosage consistency, and quality control. But with many gray market peptide products, consumers are often forced to trust the claims of companies operating outside of that system. In fact, most of these companies get their unregulated peptides from random Chinese factories. Because of this, the concentration listed on the label as opposed to what's actually in the vial can sometimes vary wildly.
I sent in a bottle of retatrutide to get tested that claimed it had 60 milligrams. Turned out it had 108 milligrams.
Or a bunch of other shit can go wrong regarding contamination and storage, only further proving that this peptide trend has gone much too far. As I finished research for this video, I couldn't help but keep coming back to the what and how of all of this. Like, what type of person do you need to be to even get to a point where you feel like you need to take a bunch of unregulated drugs just to improve yourself? And I think the answer reveals itself when we return to Ryan. Ryan was someone who felt disrespected by those around him for his appearance, a pretty natural thing for a young teenage guy to go through before you've had the opportunity to mature and find firm footing in this world.
This would have been like 17 years old. I was an easy person to disrespect because I wouldn't stand up for myself physically or mentally, right? And I get a lot of young men come to me that are like, I want to feel respected by the people around me, so I want to get bigger and I want to look better, you know, but also change what I see in myself. So if you change what you see in yourself, you won't allow people to treat you that way.
But without proper guidance, Ryan felt like he couldn't get to the point where his kindness or his positive actions were ever enough to get people to respect and like him. So instead of focusing on the internal root causes, he focused on the external. He got jacked, he started an online fitness business, and the numbers and validation poured in, giving him more validation to continue on this trajectory. And I can only imagine that addictive feeling of finally being respected led him to pursue an even higher state of validative ecstasy. If you're constantly getting feedback from your external environment that bigger muscles or a better tan is what gets you attention and respect, and you haven't taken the time to resolve those deeper insecurities, more muscle or money will never feel like it is enough, and you will resort to the most extreme measures, such as taking unregulated peptides. That's the type of people these drugs attract. Those whose upbringing never taught them to reach a state of self-acceptance that repels the idea of abusing your body with needles full of a bunch of different things. And the theme of building an identity full of self-confidence that comes from within is one of the central ideas of my debut novel, Echoes Across Infinity. Echoes Across Infinity is a story about a 21-year-old named Elliot who lives in the modern world, our post-pandemic world, who loses his mother in an unexplainable accident. Through the trauma he endures, he begins to have uncontrollable visions, which he soon discovers are glimpses into a parallel reality he can learn to access. And a good portion of this book is Elliot coming to terms with his insecurities and learning to accept and overcome them. It's a blend of sci-fi, psychology, and philosophy, and the first person who ever reviewed the book on Amazon said they almost finished it in a single sitting, so shout out to that guy. If the themes of grief, loneliness, and self-improvement resonate with you, you can pick up my debut novel by going to the first link in the description or scanning the QR code that you see on screen right now. Now let's go back to Ryan. I want to make it clear that this is not a diss at Ryan. Honestly, I watched that Guardian video and my first thought was, well, Ryan actually seems like a genuinely cool dude. He has great energy, and it's clear that he just wants to help guys feel respected and feel better about themselves. And I love people who uplift other people. I just don't agree with the methods he promotes to get there. If you know anyone who is taking these peptides or considering taking these peptides, I encourage you to show them this video and highlight the consequences. While we might eventually find out that some of these peptides do end up providing significant benefits with little downsides, it's important to wait until proper testing and regulation has been put in place, even if RFK Jr. is trying to ease limits on them because he's, quote, used them himself and with really good effect on a couple of injuries. Taking care of yourself, eating well, and moving your body is absolutely essential to feeling your best, and therefore respecting yourself and having others respect you. But there's a limit you need to put on your incessant desire to self-improve before it starts to do the opposite. Let me know your thoughts as always in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy my video about the male body image crisis, specifically focusing on men's body image and this bigorexia that's been going around, kind of the opposite of anorexia, where men just need to get as much muscle as possible to feel like they're worth something in this world now, and why that's the case. Yeah, go check it out if you want to. Thank you very much for watching, and also check out my novel if you want to read it, link in the description like I said, and now I am leaving.